So, should you upgrade? I think that's kind of the question that's on everybody's mind here, right? So, it's my goal in this video to hopefully get you the information you need in a short period of time so you don't have to watch the whole long presentation that Apple did, to give you the information that you need to decide for yourself if you should upgrade or not. I'll give you my opinion on what circumstances I think that you should upgrade. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go through each of the things that they announced, not all of them, but the important points. And then after each product, we'll talk about should you upgrade. So here we go. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. Well, this video was partially edited by AI, and I'll tell you all about it in another time, but I wanted to experiment a little bit. But for now, I just want to say that I'll pop in here and there because the AI missed a few key points.
So they announced some things that were exciting from a technical standpoint, but at the same time, those were more of specifications. But they did announce one really cool feature that I thought might have some issues, but I could see it being really useful. First, they started out with just reviewing some old announcements. So they start out by talking about the new Apple Watch Series 9, which is going to be twice as fast because of the new chip. Because of that new chip, they're able to speed up the use of using Siri because they can have it processing right on the watch rather than in the cloud. They also announced a feature called Siri Health Queries, so you can ask Siri about health data that your watch and your iPhone collect for you. Having Siri be able to process your requests directly on your watch rather than in the cloud is a great thing, not only for speed, but for security and privacy. They mentioned that the Series 9 will have 18 hours of battery life. They talked about the name drop feature, and then they moved on to talking about pinging your iPhone from your watch and how they've improved the chip so you can actually, if you've set your phone down somewhere, you can locate your phone easily with your watch. So that's a cool feature. They've improved the brightness of the display to go all the way up to 2000 nits, and actually it can go all the way down to 1 nit, so if you're in a dark room, it's not going to feel like it's super bright. So that's pretty cool. One feature that I think is really cool on both a technical level and I think will be really helpful and just something that you'd probably use a lot. And in fact, they said you'll use it on a daily basis. And I think that's probably true. But I think there could be a problem, is something they call double tap. So you take your index finger and your thumb and just tap, tap, and your watch will recognize that gesture. And I think that's incredibly cool on the level of technical capabilities because it's just taking tiny changes in your blood flow and detecting that when you move your wrist and you move your fingers. They said it's going to control the main function in whatever app you're in. So let's say you have your camera remote open, well, you'll be able to just double tap and it will snap a picture or start the video. If you're in a phone call, you could double tap to hang up. If you're out for a walk and you're listening to music, you could potentially be able to pause it just by double tapping. I could see this feature being really useful, but on the other hand, I could see it being problematic if there are false positives where the watch thinks that you are double tapping, but you're really not. Situations like maybe you're clapping or you're doing something in your sleep or whatever. Lastly, they showed off all the new colors. So should you upgrade? Well, that depends on your situation. First of all, if you have something older than, say, an Apple Watch Series 5 or 6, then I would say yes, it's probably well worth it to upgrade. Secondly, even if your watch is newer than that, it may still be worth it to upgrade if you frequently go to places where you don't have a good internet connection. The reason being is because this watch will have that Siri integration directly running on the silicon instead of in the cloud, so you're not relying on the cloud to use Siri, which makes the use of the watch a lot easier because you have such a small screen. Another reason that you might still consider upgrading even with from a Series 7 or 8 is if you are frequently outdoors in bright sunlight and you have a hard time seeing your screen because the new one can go much brighter. And the final reason, in my opinion, that you might consider upgrading even from a Series 7 or 8 is if running Siri directly on your watch is going to be really beneficial to you. Just that extra security and privacy that you get from having it just running on your own hardware rather than the cloud. Next, they talk about Watch Ultra 2, which, as you can imagine, would meet or exceed all of the specs of the Watch Series 9. The screen on the Ultra 2 is even bigger at 49 millimeters, and it can go up to 3000 nits as compared to 2000 nits. They talked about how they improved the sustainability of the materials, including going all the way up to 95% recycled titanium. My favorite feature of the Ultra 2 would have to be the battery life, because it can go up to 36 hours, or it can even go up to 72 hours with energy saving mode. That alone might get me to upgrade because right now I have to charge this watch every day, and that would take me from once a day to being able to go almost 3 days without charging. That's pretty incredible to me. So, should you upgrade? Well, consider the factors that I mentioned with Series 9, but also add to that the Bluetooth health devices. Are you going to use your phone and watch for workouts? It might be worth it for that. And add to all of those reasons battery life. Because even if you don't need to have your watch go 3 days, well, it's still to me peace of mind because every once in a while I'll forget to put my watch on the charger and then I just don't have it because it's not charged. So to me, having my watch be able to go 3 days if I need it to is just extra peace of mind that, oh, I'm on a trip and I didn't remember to bring my watch charger, or I forgot to put it on the charger overnight, or whatever.
Okay, the AI that I was using to do the rough cut edit of this video, I'll leave it in the description. It's called Gling. It's really cool. But unfortunately, it left out the part where I said that next up they started talking about the iPhone 15. So that's what we're talking about right now. Oh yeah, and if this is useful, please subscribe.
Next up, they talked about the ultra wideband and how they improved it so it goes up to 3 times farther. So if I go to a game or a concert or some event with some friends and they've shared their location with me, I'll be able to just use my phone to easily find them in the crowd. They demoed using a feature called voice isolation where they showed a lady in a market and it was able to, using machine learning, isolate her voice from all the background noise. So you don't have to go seek out a quiet spot to talk. You can just turn on voice isolation and the person will be able to hear you better. They talked about how they improved the satellite connectivity and the emergency SOS feature, and how they've partnered with AAA to get you roadside assistance if you are somewhere where you don't have cell service, which is really cool. And then the big feature that everybody was talking about was adding USB Type C. So no longer do we have the lightning cable on it, we have USB Type C port on the bottom of the phone. I know this probably sucks for a lot of people who have lightning connectors, but I imagine that there will be some adapters to use those old accessories. Because there are adapters to do the reverse. Finally, they started talking about the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. They talked about how it has thinner edges. They're calling it their titanium design. One thing that I thought was pretty cool is that they have edge finishes now so that you can get different colors on the metal on the edges of your phone. The Pro and Pro Max have 100% recycled aluminum in them now, and they talked about how they are changing the switch that's been on the iPhone for years to a button that's customizable and you can use it for all kinds of different things, camera shutter, hang up your phone calls, whatever. They talked about a standby mode, so when you put your phone horizontally on a charger, it can actually act as like an alarm clock and you can show different widgets with different information. So it's all customizable, so I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, they have a newer, faster chip, which they always seem to with new iPhones, but what I thought was really cool was how they were able to get it down to 3 nanometers wide, which means a thickness of 12 silicon atoms. Another spec that they shared that I thought was pretty cool was what they're calling their Pro class GPU. And they showed it using hardware-based ray tracing. And it wasn't that long ago that Microsoft and Sony were talking about ray tracing on their newest consoles, the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. They showed it playing what they said was a console version of Assassin's Creed natively. Next, they started talking about the camera. It has a new, larger sensor, which is very important. You often see advertisements with how many megapixels a camera has on a phone. But the truth is, that is at best only 50% of the story of how good of a photo you'll get out of your camera, at least in low light. You see, in the old days, we had film instead of a sensor, and one of the most common size was 35mm. Well, there's not room for a 35mm sensor behind the lenses in these phone cameras. So the bigger the film, or the sensor in this case, the bigger the surface area you have to let more light land on that surface. A bigger surface collecting more light means better pictures in low light situations. It's also the same situation with telescopes. I had an astronomy professor who recommended to us that if we wanted to get a telescope for ourselves, that we don't pay as much attention to that number behind the X that they always advertise as we do to how big or round it is. Because the more light it can gather, the better we're going to be able to see things in the night sky. Next, they talked about being able to use that USB Type-C port to connect an external recording device so you can record ProRes video directly to that external device. And a feature that I was really hoping that they would bring, and they did, is the ability to do what they're calling spatial video. This is basically recreating how your eyes use two eyes to create a 3D image. So this would be used in conjunction with your Apple Vision Pro to be able to see 3D videos. So you're recording in 3D, and then when you put on your Apple Vision Pro, you get to relive those things in 3 dimensions. So, should you upgrade? Well, if you are a pro and you want to be able to record straight to an external device, or if you want to take advantage of the newer, better camera and all these different features, then yes, absolutely. Also, you'll probably want to upgrade if you plan on getting the Apple Vision Pro because you'll be able to use that spatial video with it. One thing that I'm hoping that they'll announce is being able to use spatial video through FaceTime. Imagine a scenario where one of your family members or your friends goes on vacation to Paris or something, and you put on your Apple Vision Pro and they can show you around and you're seeing in 3D. That would be awesome. Speaking of the Apple Vision Pro, you might want to check out my video on how I think it could be life-changing for people with disabilities. I'll leave a link on the screen. If you have any questions or comments, please, I'd love to talk to you down there. Thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.